Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday afternoon stream. Allow me to introduce to you Nuriyah Khan, also known as Holy Humanist. How are you doing, Nuriyah?
I'm very well, Dean. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I've been following you on social media, for a while now, and I really like the candid and very authentic way that you approach these issues. So I said to myself, wow, we've got to interview Nuriyah and just get a little bit of the background and the lowdown on you and what you're all about. So
Sure,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I apologize. There's so many sirens going off here. I'll just mute myself.
Well, if they are, I don't hear them in the background.
Okay, great.
Don't worry. Sundays in Africa is music day as well. So if my neighbors fire up the boombox, you'll. Right. So I guess let's just jump straight into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Nuriyah, about your background and where you're from, just so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So I am originally from Pakistan, but I was born and brought up in the UK, as were my parents, and my grandparents as well moved here quite early on. So I'm like second generation British Pakistani. And I was born into a Sunni Muslim household, which is pretty much your kind of bog standard Muslim Pakistani
Vanilla
household.
Muslim, yeah.
Yeah, that's not kind of too extreme and also not as lax. So growing up, we lived as an extended family in London while I was growing up, and it was more the influence of the elder generation. So my grandparents and my grandfather particularly, who was an imam of the local mosque. So he actually held the keys to the mosque and would go early and open it for the morning prayer, the one that's like just at dawn. And he would always do the call to prayer 5 times a day. So he had quite a heavy influence on the mosque. And I saw that growing up, and I would go to Quran classes after school. And obviously going with my granddad a lot and seeing his influence, it kind of really like veered me towards religion and want to take like an added interest in it. So I took those Quran classes very seriously. And I was 9 years old, and I decided I should wear the hijab because that's what my Quran teacher was saying was the right thing to do. And
At
that's
9.
Yeah, at 9, exactly. So I started to wear the hijab, which in my experience was a bit different to what a lot of women do experience. And I understand that I was, uniquely poised in the sense that my family actually said, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because you're quite young." And I did have like a lot more kind of sporty tendencies. So I would want to play football and partake in sports. And the hijab was a bit of a just practical impediment, but also dangerous as a health and safety hazard. I used to wear a clip as well, the pin one, so it could easily just, like clip you. So my mom would always be like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yes, mom, I can't believe you guys aren't wearing the hijab because this is what God told us to do. And don't you guys want to go to heaven? To go to heaven, you have to follow God's words. And as a woman, this is what he's asked us to do." So I kind of had that, and even in school we had religious education, RE, and anytime there was anything to do with Islam, I kind of would volunteer and step forward, and I demonstrated how to pray. I was like, pick me. So yeah, I was really kind of keen to show this outward identity of being a Muslim at a very young age. So that's a bit of background in terms of just like my younger childhood, but literally at 9 years old as well, then it all changed because we moved to Saudi Arabia, and that's
So you were very much steeped in it, mostly by your own choice, by the sounds of it. But what was the linchpin, or the straw that broke the camel's back, so to say, in this journey for you?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna like give a quick snapshot and fast forward, because as with most people, it's not like this overnight thing. It's quite a build. It's
I
after a
get
build.
that.
Yeah, and so there's like a lot of life experience. Obviously, like I said, I'd gone to Saudi Arabia, and I'm a young girl, and I'm going to this international mixed school. So I'm meeting people from all over the world. I'm hearing of religions I've never heard of. I'm seeing that even within Islam, we've got Shias, we've got Ahmadis, and even in Saudi Arabia, the Shias had to keep really quiet. And I thought, what's going on here? Why is there so much, beef between these people? And they're living in a Muslim country, yet they're going to pray secretly because they pray slightly different. So I was seeing all these these things. And like my brother and my father would go to read Friday prayer, and after the Friday prayers they would announce executions, and you could stay and watch beheadings if you wanted to. And all of these things were in the background playing out while I was going through a very international experience. It was like almost living in a suburb of America and then having Saudi Arabia outside of that. So saw things like the Islamic police and them telling, even Western women, cover your hair, even though they don't believe. And it was just more like respect our traditions, respect our laws. And then we were really close to the house of God, so to speak, in Mecca. So I'd go there and we did the pilgrimages a couple of times. So I was kind of just seeing this and trying to think that, this is not the same exact way that my parents or I've been taught that Islam is meant to be. So I had this thing that Saudi Arabia was just the Wahhabi implementation of Islam, which they have almost kind of taken it out of context and used it in a very, very harsh way. And that's how I kind of, got through the cognitive dissonance at that stage. Then I moved to the UAE and things seemed a lot more kind of, there was a bit more of an East-West balance, and it wasn't so in your face, even though there's still you hear the call to prayer 5 times, you have all the Islamic holidays off, you're expected not to eat in public in the month of Ramadan. Now that's changed, but back then it was. So I found that was a much more healthy balance. But then when I actually had my own life experience where trying to escape a marriage, a Sharia law was put on me, which essentially derived directly from the Quran. In the moment, I didn't know that because I was just trying to fight it off, because essentially it was to send me back to my ex-husband's house and me not able to leave the house without his permission. And obviously, as somebody growing up with more of a Western mindset and the concept of laws and just abusive relationships and things, I didn't think that was possible, let alone the fact that my God had sanctioned this or could have sanctioned this in the Holy Scripture. So it was long after I had left that situation, I moved back to the UK, and I just kind of really wanted to introspect and be like, what happened to me and how do people get away with trying to do something like that? And also I wanted to really defend myself in case anybody said, oh, look, that's what Sharia law does, and that's how it works. And I would be able to say, no, that was just men abusing their power, and that's not what God sanctions. So lo and behold, I did some digging and I was like, let me see what God actually says in English, properly now. None of this fancy, old English or Shakespearean jargon in the Quran, because I tried to read it in English a couple of times when I was younger and I just gave up after a while. So I read it.
Why are all the religious books so boring, Nuriyah? That's what I want to know.
I know, and also just confusing. It jumps from you're trying to open with a story, and then you're like, oh wait, the polytheists are gonna burn in hellfire, and then you go back and you talk about something else. And I was like, can we just finish the story? And the Quran sent me on a wild goose chase about King Solomon and Queen Sheba. I did watch so many documentaries trying to piece it together. Now I realize what a sheer waste of time that was. But so it was a long-winded process, but it was only until I thought, let me sit down with an adult mind and not look at this with a sense of awe, innately. Let me just read it for what it is. And that's what happened.
It's incredible. I always find it very striking how, critical thinking is the enemy of religion. Whenever you apply a bit of logic and a bit of critical thinking, you take faith out of the equation, then you end up with a whole boatload full of atheists. It's one thing that religion shies away from is questions. But how else are they going to hide something that's patently false? So this was basically a journey that you undertook yourself. Was there any person or organization or something that was influential in this kind of process? I mean, for me personally, it was when I discovered, first of all, religious debates, where people, and they were, religion was a sacred cow where I grew up. Nobody dared speak a word against it or question it, albeit not in the very strict framework that Islam forces, especially in Islamic countries, on people. But even in my local context, socially, it was a taboo to even question or think about that. And when I discovered these, again, the internet is just like critical thinking to religion. When I discovered people that were openly questioning and, with unabashedly saying no, this is nonsense, blah, 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 blah. It was a bit of a culture shock to me. And that was the thing that started my journey. And I was, I was just wondering if there was any specific person or organization or something that was influential for you that you also remember in your deconversion process.
Yeah, no, great question, because there always is, because when you are going through this and you're like, am I crazy because I'm seeing this for what it is, but everybody holds this so sacred? Is there a problem with me? And then you go out and you try and look for, validation from other people. Has anybody else thought like this? And this is how far removed you are from, like, in religion, especially with what Islam does, the concept of stunting questions, like right from the get-go, or say actually going as far as to say that's the devil, trying to get to you. So I literally remember when I read the Quran, and I went and I first searched on YouTube, or even in Google, I think it was, I was just like, is Islam the truth? Like, back to basics. And as you said, it was honestly the internet and the power of having all this information at your fingertips now. So I came across, because again, I was doing it from a strictly Islamic lens. I knew that the first thing somebody would say to me, and I had to work out for myself, was, I'm not a native Arabic speaker. So have I got this wrong somewhere? And have I got this gravely wrong? Because obviously you're leaving it, and my heart and mind was telling me to leave, but you need to know that I've done enough. I've done. I'm not just leaving this willy-nilly. There is a
not
reason.
A decision you make at a whim. Yeah.
Exactly. So I actually came across the YouTube channels of Master Arab and Sharif Gabber, because they are both native Arabic speakers. So I heard them speak, and they would translate. They had Arabic subtitles as well, and then they would also tell you, no, what you're reading is actually correct. In fact, it's even worse in Arabic, like this word here and this word there. So that really, really helped me, because I'm like, if they also are saying, these passages lead to what ISIS is doing, and that's not just because there's it's lost in transliteration or even translation or whatever.
Exactly.
So that really helped. And, or like, as you said, then I just, you go down the YouTube wormhole, and I started watching religious debates. But I came across ex-Muslims of North America, and they would have a lot of these panel discussions. So then I was like, oh my gosh, across the pond, people are actually sitting in the open and having a panel discussion about these things. And they all reflect the same views that I the way I see Islam now. And of course, Mariam Namazi in the UK, who set up the Council of Ex-Muslims Britain, when I saw her going to universities across the UK and almost taking on some of these Islamic thugs who were in the front trying to disrupt her presentations.
The Dawa boys.
The Dawa gang, yes. So that was all like my safety net at that point, for sure. It was definitely the internet and Twitter as well.
Exactly. It never ceases to amaze me. Whenever I encounter these Dawa boys online, Islam especially is such a male-centered religion. It's all based around men, and then you find the occasional woman who pipes up in these online forums, and I say to myself, like, I literally feel like a woman who is promoting and advocating for Islam is like a chicken that's selling KFC.
Oh yes.
It's crazy. It's the desire to be a slave. The desire to I don't know how else to word it. It's one of the most pernicious religions when it comes to women and the right to equality. First of all, not speaking of all the other injustices that are perpetrated on the gender, but there's a distinction between men and women in terms of equality, what they are legally allowed to, what they have access to in society, and that's crazy. And it's a concept that is so completely foreign to us in the Western culture, etc. I was wondering if you ever experienced anything like that in your journeys across the Middle East and those Islamic countries.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, like Islam, it's even more intensified in the sense that this internalized misogyny that you're willing to accept in the name of freedom, and you're actually saying, this is protecting me, and this is because I'm so pure and I'm so this, and nobody should have the right to see me. You have almost built up these defenses in your mind to make sense of the situation that you're in, which is you're given the status of a prisoner. I mean, you're likened to domestic chattel in Islam. So for me, I'm always like, I now can just never understand how a woman out there can call herself Muslim and feminist in the same breath. It makes no sense to me. But yeah, it is so internalized. As I said, even when I lived in Saudi Arabia and you drive around, you'd see like villas with 4 identical like buildings that are exactly the same, and you know this is a man who's got 4 wives and he has to treat them exactly the same, and that's why there's these 4 women living in the same space all dedicated to this one man, and they think that's absolutely fine and this is what God has ordained that they should live like. So you see the it's just, yeah, you see it in different ways. In the West, there's other problems where they actually genuinely believe that the hijab is empowering, and if you even make a slight comment on that, they think that you're infringing on their rights. But it's just to go that one step further, which I don't think you are in a space to do as a believing Muslim. I mean, I never looked into the roots of hijab or where it came from or the oppressive source and nature of it, or the story of in Islam is quite funny how hijab came down. But a lot of people just stop short of actually examining the origins in their scripture, and therefore, as a believing Muslim, you have to, as a woman, live with this cognitive dissonance and take it to the next level where you're constantly defending it. But yeah, it's a sad state of affairs.
But Nuriyah, like when you take the wrapping off a sweet,
you attract the flies. Yes,
you attract the flies. Oh man, the first time I heard that, I was like, seriously?
Honestly.
This is, I mean, honestly.
And it's they've brought out so many other ones since then. I think there's lollipops. There's a number of them. We compared to a number of things. Some fruits chucked in.
Yeah. So, what are what are your passions, in general, and when it comes to, this matter of leaving religion? What are the things that fuel your passion and your drive to continue doing what you're doing at the moment?
To be honest, it's actually just realizing that Islam is extremely damaging, and the fact that I am in a position where a lot of people aren't as privileged as I am to be able to live in the West and actually step out and show my face and say what I'm saying. I don't think there's enough women out there saying the same thing. So that really drives me to kind of get the message across, because I'm not sitting here trying to, change anybody's mind overnight. That's not how it works. But if the way that these sources were so readily available to me, I literally could type sunnah.com, quran.com and read the scripture actually for what it is, even in English with like 10 different translations. But now just knowing what I know to kind of pass that information on in a more compact way and say, look, put this, and this together, and where does that leave you as a woman? Or even let's just talk about this. So it's kind of just reinforcing that women's status in Islam and pushing that message out there to as many people as possible. So yeah, whether it's the Western audience or kind of the Hindi and Urdu speaking audience of the subcontinent as well, just to kind of get these women questioning their worth, because we have things like the Women's March coming up in Pakistan, where they're actually fighting for equality and bodily autonomy and basic human rights. And one of the placards would say something like that, and then the one next to it would say God is great, and it's just you're halfway there, but then the other placard is what's holding you back. So it's kind of just putting that message out there together that choose one, Islam or feminism. It's 2022. Exactly. So yeah.
But these kind of post-religion organization that we do, be it having talks on the internet, or just being a community builder amongst atheists wherever you are, this is so vitally important, because there is great solidarity to be found in community, and you'll find that wherever you gather 3 or 4 or 5 like-minded atheists together, things get done, and things get discussed, and we tend to mobilize people. So, this kind of activism, and that you are so passionate about it is, extremely, I gotta say, it warms my heart, because I know that you have an impact in, whatever circles you have your audience in. So it's vitally important.
Thank you, Dean. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, let's quickly just have let's just put a quick lens on the religious aspect of your life. Maybe just think if you can. I don't want to like wound worship or whatever, but religion has a negative impact on a lot of people's lives. It can be something as as non-consequential as your diet, to something extremely impactful as in the way you live your life, who you marry, and that kind of thing. Maybe if you could just reflect on some of those negative impacts that Islam especially had on your life.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, as you said, it pretty much covers all the bases in Islam, even though I was like lucky enough that my parents are, very well educated and very progressive. So we always explored ideas in our house, like separately when we moved away from the UK. But it was always like Islam always served the foundation. And anytime it does that, because Islam is so all-encompassing and totalitarian in its very nature, it does kind of have ripple effects onto everything you do. So I genuinely, like, my worldview was that of the Islamic one for a very, very long time. And it was always expected that I would only ever be able to marry a Muslim man. That was, that was a given. Like, there was no question about that. And also that, you most of your life starts after you're married. Like, a lot of the things that you want to do now, wait to do them after you're married. That again comes from just the Islamic not giving women freedom to live their lives, unless they're either in the home of their father or in the home of their husband. There's kind of, you're in a weird place if you're in the middle, and you're looked down upon, and all of society looks down on you, and there's that whole kind of ripple effect in that sense. And then also
almost like a commodity, you're essentially not a person. You're just like you said, you're the property of a man or a father. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, you literally are just like, there's just they pass the baton from one household to another, and there's always a man who's in charge of you in some way, or a man you have to get permission for to do certain things. He has to almost give you the green light to just live your life or make your own life choices. So that was all there. It's just that heavy conservatism as well that's within the culture. You're not really told that your body is yours to do whatever you like with, and express yourself in whichever way you want. So anything, I mean, the way you want to dress, whether you want to get a tattoo or a piercing, or all of these things are like a battle if you want to, and usually it starts from a no. So everything is constricted. Your self-expression, your wanting to go and travel the world as a solo girl, or have a gap year, or all of these mini battles as a woman within the Muslim faith, you have to just fight. And especially coming from a Western background, where you see like British girls going off and doing whatever they like, and you're like, well, why do we have this different kind of set of rules placed on us? And then you see the treatment between yourself and then male members of your family, if they're the same age and younger, and they're just given free passes and carte blanche to do whatever they want. They can go clubbing, they can do whatever, they can talk about it in the open. But if you do it as a girl, it's like, why aren't you at home and more covered up? And there's a whole lot of like imbalance and hypocrisy, and you just see that growing up within a household like that. So and then dietary, as you said, never eat pork, never talk about drinking alcohol, never think about drinking, all of those things. It's
It's crazy. Whenever I speak to ex-Muslims, it always strikes me how totalitarian, like you said, it's all encompassing, the religion. And I'm very quick to draw a parallel between Islam and communism. Like the way
yes.
the way that it governs every single aspect of your life. From the time that you wake up, you have to do this and that. Before you go to bed, you have to do that. It's crazy.
Islam governs even, I mean, like, how somebody functions in their toilet, in their bedroom. I mean, you're told, like, I remember being told as a young girl, like the angels that are on your shoulders, the good and bad one who record the deeds, they wait outside for you while you're in the bathroom. So if you accidentally speak, then or you like ask for something, or you call to someone, then the angels think you're finished and they walk in, but they've seen you in that state, so that's really bad. And like, this is the kind of level of what. And then obviously for men it's even worse. Like, you have to wash 3 times. It's so controlled, as you said.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's crazy. So what would you say, to anybody who's just starting this journey of questioning their religion, and or maybe if you could speak to a younger version of yourself, what would you implore them to do just to kickstart this journey? Because I'm all about. I understand, like you said, it wasn't like a literal straw that broke the camel's back. It was a bit of a journey, and that's a common thread amongst all atheists, is that it starts off as a gradual descent from the
Yes.
mountain. But I'm always interested, because I wasted like close to half a decade on this process. So I'm always interested, like, how can we kickstart it? How can we push the snowball to run down, to roll down the hill, and gain a bit of momentum. So, like I said, what would you say to a younger version of yourself, just to get this going a bit quicker?
Oh, that's actually a great question. I wish I could talk to the younger version of myself for real. But yeah, because I mean, no matter, like, even now I'm like, oh, I wish I had become atheist, years earlier. Just all of that time seems like a complete waste. But what I would definitely say is that, I mean, whether you're young, even as a child, you always have, like, you're driven, you're curious as a human being, and you ask questions, and that's a natural and normal thing to do. And I would say, if you are given answers that genuinely, don't sit right with you, or it seems insufficient. If you're asking anything like, what about the dinosaurs? Why were they created? How does that fit into God's plan? If he was just going to wipe them out anyway, was he trying to test them? Like, all of these things, you ask these questions as a child, but coming from a religious home, or when your parents have kind of superimposed their worldview on you and told you that that's the truth, those questions just kind of get, you just put them to the back of your mind and you just live your life. So I would say, if you genuinely be curious and ask those questions, and if the answers aren't sufficient, the internet is amazing. There's videos out there. So don't be afraid to like read and look at and learn about other worldviews. And if they make sense to you, then go that way, because in all likelihood they will make a lot more sense than what you're being told. But I would say, yeah, don't be fearful of questioning. And if somebody tells you to keep quiet and don't think about something, I think that's actually the most dangerous thing. If somebody ever tells you don't question, that means you should definitely question what they're telling you, because you're on the right track. And yeah, and it might seem like you're crazy or you're the only person in the world that stumbled across this, but there have been atheists out there since, there have been theists and deists out there, like, since the beginning of time. So it's just coming from a place of religion. We're not taught about that. We're not told to even deal with the way that they think or the questions that they've posed, because that's so taboo. But there is something to be learned in that human experience that's gone on, and the reason we say what we do. But also, I would just say, if you're going to believe in something, or if your parents have told you to believe in something, then obviously you trust them because they come from a place of authority. But actually do your own research and check for yourself as an individual. Does this worldview hold up to what I believe in my heart of hearts, or what I think, or does it answer all my questions, and does it make sense to me? And even if that's taboo, I would say push the boat out and do it, whether you're doing it in your own time and you're researching, or you're speaking to people. But I would definitely say just critical thinking, and those questions that come up, do not close the lid on that.
Exactly. The watershed moment for myself was not when I learned how to think and not what to think.
Yes.
That was and it's so vital that you say about critical thinking, and just learning. I mean, you don't need to go and do degrees on logic, but just learn, for example, what fallacies are in logic, because the religion loves fallacious reasoning,
loves it. And I was guilty of it too, and now I can see it. Like, I'd be like, why is that the truth? Oh, because the Quran says it is. I was once there, but now I see how flawed and circular and empty that is.
Exactly. Exactly. Nuriyah, this has been delightful. I love meeting new atheists. I'm ever so glad that I started this project of just finding and interviewing people. That's there's a specific verse in the Bible, which is my background, where there's a demon that possesses somebody, and one of them's they shake the demon and say, "What's your name? What's your name?" And the demon answers, "We are legion, for we are many." And whenever I discover new atheists, that always comes, I'm surprised. You cannot turn a rock in any single country without stumbling across an atheist. We found them in Africa, in even in the Middle East, like
Yeah.
there's people in Egypt as well who do this at great threat to their personal safety, and they're vocal, they're publishing books, they're making videos, and it's, like you mentioned, Sharif Garber as well earlier. That's an inspirational story. Like he
Most
is
definitely
unrelenting and extremely vocal in his criticism.
Yeah, we are legion. He is definitely.
We are legion, for we are many. Where can people find you on social media? Finally, Nuriyah.
So people are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter. It's at Nuriyah K. And obviously on YouTube, my channel is Holy Humanist. So you're more than welcome to follow me there as well.
Amazing. I'll post those links in the description when I load this to YouTube.
Thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate it. And it was amazing talking to you as well. This absolutely flew by. And I love what you're doing. I mean, getting these voices from, far and wide, and just having these kind of stories be put out there. So yeah, kudos to you. And please keep doing it.
Thank you so much, Nuriyah.
Thanks a lot.